He kept a severed head in his studio. Look at this painting. A raft covered in corpses. Desperate survivors waving at a ship in the distance. One man at the very top frantically waving a red cloth. The artist, Theodor Géricault, was 27 years old when he painted this. To get it right, he visited morgues every day. He brought severed limbs back to his studio to watch them decay. And for 2 weeks, he kept a decapitated human head on his roof, drawing it as it rotted in the sun. This is the raft of the Medusa, painted in 1819, now in the Louvre. It's 16 feet tall and 23 feet wide. That's massive. And it depicts a real disaster that became one of the biggest political scandals in French history. A shipwreck where at least 147 people were abandoned on a raft. Only 15 survived. The rest were murdered, died of starvation, or were eaten by their fellow passengers. But here's what makes this painting devastating. That ship in the distance, it's the rescue ship. We can barely see it, but it's out there. And the moment Géricault painted is the moment it passed by without seeing them. The survivors went from delirium of joy to complete despair in seconds. The ship didn't come back for 2 more hours. By the end of this video, you'll know why this shipwreck happened. Why Géricault became so obsessed he nearly went insane painting it. Why he put a black man at the top of the composition when that was unheard of. And why this painting changed the entire direction of Western art. But first, how did 150 people end up abandoned on a raft in the middle of the ocean? The Raft of the Medusa, painted between 1818 and 1819 by Theodor Géricault, is an oil-on-canvas painting measuring 16 feet by 23 feet, now hanging in the Louvre in Paris. It shows the moment 13 days after the French naval frigate Medusa ran aground off the coast of Africa, and 150 people were set adrift on a raft. June 1816. The French naval frigate Medusa departs from France headed for Senegal. It's part of a 4-ship convoy. The captain is Viscount Hugues de Roy de Chaumareix. Here's the problem. De Chaumareix hadn't sailed in 20 years. He was a royalist émigré who'd been living in exile. When the monarchy was restored after Napoleon's defeat, he got appointed captain as political payback. He had no business commanding a ship. On July 2, 1816, the Medusa ran aground on a sandbank off the coast of Mauritania. De Chaumareix had poor navigation, drifted 100 miles off course, and crashed the ship. For 3 days, they tried to free it. Nothing worked. On July 5th, they decided to evacuate. The Medusa was carrying 400 people. The lifeboats had room for about 250. So what happened to the other people? What happened to the rest? They built a raft, hastily, out of ship planks and ropes. It was 20 meters long and 7 meters wide, and they packed at least 147 people onto it. Accounts vary, but it was somewhere between 147 and 150 men and women. The plan was for the lifeboats to tow the raft to shore, about 60 miles away. Here's what actually happened. After a few miles, the crew in the lifeboats cut the ropes. They abandoned the raft in the open ocean. The captain was in one of those boats. He saved himself and left nearly 150 people to die. On the raft, they had 1 bag of ship's biscuits, eaten on the first day, 2 casks of water lost overboard during fighting, and 6 casks of wine. What happened over the next 13 days is one of the most horrific survival stories ever recorded. Day 1. Fighting breaks out. Men kill each other over the wine. Bodies are thrown overboard. Day 3. They start drinking seawater. Hallucination begins. Some men throw themselves into the ocean in despair. Day 5. They resort to cannibalism. They eat the bodies of the dead. Day 7. Only 67 people are left. The strongest survivors decide to throw the weakest overboard to conserve resources. 15 men are murdered while they sleep. Day 13. July 17, 1816. The rescue ship Argus spots them by chance. Only 15 people are still alive. 5 more die shortly after rescue. The survivors, engineer Alexander Corriere and surgeon Henry Savigny, published an account of what happened. It became an international scandal. Enter Theodore Géricault, 27 years old and completely obsessed. Géricault saw this disaster as his chance to make a name for himself. He decided to paint it on a massive scale over life-size figures without anyone commissioning it. In early 1818, he met with Corriard and Savigny, the 2 survivors who published the account. He interviewed them for hours. He built a detailed scale model of the raft with another survivor, the carpenter, Lavillette, reproducing it down to the gaps between planks. And then he started his research into death. He set up his studio across from Bouillon Hospital in Paris. He visited the morgue daily to sketch corpses. He studied the faces of dying patients. He brought severed limbs back to his studio to study their decay, the color of rotting flesh, how it stiffens and changes. And for 2 weeks, he kept a severed head borrowed from a lunatic asylum stored on his studio roof, drawing it every day as it decomposed. Why go to these extremes? Because Géricault wanted absolute authenticity. He wanted the flesh tones of the dead to be perfect. He wanted the despair to be real. He even traveled to the coast during storms to watch waves crash on shore. He crossed the English Channel during bad weather to study the sea. In November 1818, he shaved his head and locked himself in his studio. For 8 months, he lived like a monk. His assistant brought him meals. He worked in complete silence. Even the noise of a mouse broke his concentration. He painted directly onto the canvas without preliminary sketches. He posed models one at a time, completing each figure before moving on to the next. So what did he paint? Look at the structure. It's a pyramid. At the base, the dead and dying, corpses waiting to slip into the sea, an old man holding his dead son, bodies piled on top of each other. Rising from the base, survivors in various states of desperation, some too weak to stand, some pointing. At the apex, a black man, Jean Charles, a military officer, standing on an empty barrel, waving a dark red handkerchief at the rescue ship in the distance. Your eye follows the diagonal from the corpses at bottom left to the man waving at top right, from death to hope. Except, and here's the devastating part, that ship is passing by. This is the moment of false hope. The raft is barely seaworthy, riding deep waves. The sky is dark, a storm is gathering. The sea is painted in murky greens and browns. Everything is somber and tragic. But here's what's strange. The men look strong, muscular, healthy. These are supposed to be people who've been starving for 13 days, resorting to cannibalism. So why do they look like Greek gods? Because Géricault was paying tribute to classical heroic painting, while also breaking from it. He's showing ordinary people, not mythological heroes, in an epic composition. He's saying there are no heroes here, just survival. And then there's the man at the top. Géricault was an abolitionist. He hired a Haitian model named Joseph to pose for at least 2 black figures in the painting. Most notably, Joseph is the figure waving the cloth at the apex, the literal high point of the composition. The hero of the scene, the strongest survivor. In 1819, this was radical. The French abolitionist movement's official symbol was a black man kneeling and begging for freedom. Géricault painted a black man standing, powerful, central to the survival of everyone on the raft. He modeled the pose on the ancient Greek Belvedere torso, a classical sculpture, giving Jean Charles the dignity of antiquity. This is Géricault's visual argument for abolition painted into the Louvre. So how did people react when they saw this? The painting debuted at the 1819 Paris Salon under the title Scène des naufrages, shipwreck scene. But everyone knew what it was. King Louis XVIII visited 3 days before the opening and reportedly complimented the work, though accounts of exactly what he said vary. Critics were split. Conservative critics called it a pile of corpses and attacked its realism. They wanted ideal beauty, not rotting flesh. Liberal critics praised it as a political statement, an indictment of the incompetent aristocratic government that had appointed des Charmés. The historian Jules Michelet wrote, "Our whole society is aboard the raft of the Medusa." The painting won a gold medal, but the Louvre didn't buy it. Géricault, exhausted and disappointed, rolled it up and stored it in a friend's studio. In 1820, Géricault took it to London. It was displayed at the Egyptian Hall in Piccadilly, hung low to the ground instead of high like in Paris. The impact was monumental. 40,000 people came to see it. The reviews were overwhelmingly positive. The British saw it as representing a new direction in French art. It's raw, emotional, and real. Géricault made 20,000 francs from the London exhibition, far more than the French government would have paid. The painting became famous, and it changed everything. Eugène Delacroix, who modeled for one of the figures, saw the painting while Géricault was working on it. He later wrote about the tremendous impact it had on him. He was so overwhelmed that he left the studio in a state of agitation, unable to think about anything else. Delacroix went on to become the standard bearer of French Romanticism. His masterpiece, Liberty Leading the People, springs directly from the raft of the Medusa. The painting influenced Turner, Courbet, Manet. It broke the dominance of neoclassicism and launched an aesthetic revolution. It showed that art could depict contemporary events with ordinary people, not just gods and kings. It showed that truth could be ugly and still powerful. Géricault died in 1824 at the age of 32 from complications of a riding accident. He never saw his painting become the icon that it is today. After his death, the Louvre curator purchased the raft of the Medusa for his heirs. It now dominates its gallery. The caption reads, "The only hero in this poignant story is humanity." So here's my question. Is this painting about a shipwreck? Or is it about what happens when the people in charge abandon everyone else? Is it about survival? Or is it about the moment when hope appears and then disappears?